Hello, my name is Travis Roberts. I recently retired out of the Army after 21 years of service. 7 years of that, from 2015 to 2023, I was a canine handler in USASOC. It's where I met and was paired up with my first work dog. His name was Conan. We became a team in 2015 while I was in the canine handlers course. I deployed 5 times with Conan. Throughout those 5 deployments, Conan engaged multiple enemy personnel inside a building and also outside hiding. During training, I rappelled down the Hoover Dam with Conan at night. It's about 600 feet down the front of the dam. And when we got to the bottom, we then assaulted the interior of the structure. That was probably the coolest training event I did with him. In 2019, my unit was called upon to conduct a no-notice, presidentially directed raid deep in the heart of northwest Syria to capture or kill the leader of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. He was the head of the caliphate. He was known as the mastermind to numerous atrocities across the world for the rise of ISIS in Iraq and Syria, and for the capture, rape, and torture of American citizen Kayla Mueller. But he was the #1 target on the terror watch list. And when we finally pinned him down and found out where he was, we were extremely fortunate to be a part of the team that got the call. October 26th, 2019, we loaded helicopters and flew into the target area. First thing we did was isolate the building, which doesn't allow anyone to leave or to come into the target area. Once the building was isolated, we began to try to call out guys that were inside of the structure to come out and surrender. Told them that they were surrounded and by American forces and to come out. Most of them didn't want to come out, and they wanted to fight, and they were dealt with. But we still didn't have Baghdadi at this time. So before we actually initiated the assault, we heard a large but muffled explosion that sounded like it was underground, and we figured that we knew he had wore an S vest, suicide vest, and we figured that that's what we had heard. So once that explosion went off, we determined that it was time to enter the building and assault the building and find Baghdadi. Something that's not very well known is we actually had 2 dogs on target that night, and we used them simultaneously to clear the structure in front of the assault force. So we sent one dog into a breach on one side of the building and sent Conan into the breach on the other side of the building, and they worked in opposite directions to clear the structure. Once we cleared the structure, we noticed a large hole in the ground where the explosion had caused the floor to collapse. Water was pouring in from the ceiling because the explosion had broken the plumbing pipes, and the hole was beginning to fill with water. The team leader on the ground basically said, let's get the dog in there and let's clear it with the dog first. I hooked up Conan on a long line, which is about a 25-foot leash. I hooked it to his vest, and I lowered him down into the hole, and I had a camera that I could monitor to see what he sees or what he comes into contact with. I lowered him in there and told him to search, and as he began to move, I could still see from about his back hips to his tail, and he fell over and was shaking violently on the ground. I wasn't sure if he was shot or had injured himself some other way, but I started to drag him back with a long line, and he was laying on his side, just convulsing. So I get him out of the hole, and I told the team leader that I thought there was a chance that he got electrocuted, which ended up being what had happened. So when Baghdadi blew himself up, he had broken the plumbing and The explosion caused live wires to fall down simultaneously as the water was pouring into the tunnel, which basically caused a pool of water that was basically had electricity running through it. So when Conan entered the water, he was electrocuted to the point of knocking him unconscious. So at this point, we were able to call up to a team outside the building, and they cut all the power to the building, and it allowed our guys to get down there. Conan kind of started to come back to, and was still groggy and not acting completely normal, but he was back on his feet, and which was a good sign. After they conducted a search, they found out that it was indeed Baghdadi blowing himself up with a suicide vest in that tunnel. We were able to recover his remains and positively identify him, and that was a great feeling to all of us to know that we were successful in the mission.
Conan recovered from his injuries and returned to field duty shortly after the raid. On November 25, 2019, Conan and members of his special operations team were invited to the White House to be honored by President Trump, Vice President Pence, and the world. President Trump presented Conan with a Presidential Recognition Award. And today, we are so very proud to award SOF K9 Conan with the Animals and War and Peace Medal of Bravery number 23. God bless you, Conan, for your dedication, devotion, bravery, and service with the U.S. Army Special Operations Command.